is the person that was captured on the video recording shooting Charles McCormick.
My son,
What's your son's name?
Hakeem.
Imagine your own father walking into a courtroom, pointing at you, and saying, "That's the man who killed him, my son." This isn't a movie, this is real life. And it's the fall of Jacksonville's most feared street rapper, Ksoo, from viral diss tracks to deadly ambushes, betrayal, and now, a viral jailhouse beatdown. This story is wild. You're gonna want to watch till the end. New footage has just emerged, showing Ksoo being violently slammed in jail. And let's be honest, he's looking rough. The timing couldn't be worse, either. This all comes on the heels of a courtroom bombshell where his own father took the stand and testified against him. As if betrayal from blood wasn't enough, one of his close friends flipped too. Things are unraveling fast for Ksoo, but to understand how it got this bad, we need to go back to where it all began. Because this isn't just another rapper getting caught up with the stunning collapse of a street legend out of Jacksonville. Ksoo wasn't some average local artist. He was deep in the trenches of one of the city's most dangerous gang rivalries. The war between ATK and KTA. This feud has left over a dozen people dead since 2017. And that body count includes innocent lives lost in the crossfire. It all started when an 18-year-old KTA affiliate named Zion Malik Brown was killed, triggering a series of brutal ATK, which stands for Ace's Top Killers, was spearheaded by rapper Youngin Ace, with Ksoo serving as one of his most feared associates. On the opposing side was KTI Killdom, all helmed by Foolio. And let's be clear, these weren't just rival rap cliques. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office classified both as violent gangs, but for Ksoo, this conflict hit harder than most. On January 15, 2019, his stepbrother, Willie Addison, also known as Boss Goon, was gunned down outside Paradise Gentlemen's Club. That night was chaos. Not only did Willie die, but father and brother, Abdul Sr. and Jr., were also shot. Abdul Jr. took a bullet to the head and miraculously survived, though he had to relearn how to walk and speak. Exactly a year later to the day, January 15, 2020. Another tragedy struck. Charles Lilbeck McCormack Jr., a 23-year-old KTA affiliate, was murdered in a Jacksonville shopping plaza. The motive? McCormack had released a diss track mocking Willie's death, even going as far as to say he was smoking on Willie, a phrase that's the ultimate disrespect in street culture. Instead of moving in silence, Ksoo made a reckless mistake that too many young men are repeating today. He went online, flaunting clues. He posted McCormack's image with the caption "Bay," and even appeared in music videos showing off the same weapons allegedly used in the killing. Prosecutors didn't miss a thing. They even used lyrics from Youngin Ace's track "Show Homicide" as evidence, where Ace raps Ksoo, "Go kill him." The evidence is stacking up. The betrayals keep coming, and what was once the life of a local legend is now the center of a tragic downfall.
Who basically was posting videos bragging about, killing, different KTA members, or whatever you want to call it, and he's talking about smoking Bibby.
Yeah.
And he actually got arrested for the murder of Bibby.
Yeah.
For the life of me, I don't know why you would commit a murder and then go on the internet and brag about the murder. It just makes absolutely no sense.
That was Foolio himself, before his own tragic death in 2024, calling out how recklessly Ksoo was moving. And Foolio wasn't wrong. See, murder doesn't come with an expiration date. There's no ticking clock. You can be locked up decades after the crime. So why on earth would anyone hop online, bragging about catching bodies like it's a badge of honor? It's that kind of arrogance that helped seal Ksoo's fate. The case against him didn't rest on one smoking gun. It was a puzzle, and piece by piece, it came together. Surveillance footage captured the moment of the shooting. Cell phone data linked Ksoo to the scene. His fingerprints found on a firearm inside the stolen getaway car. But what really cut deep, the blow that might have doomed him, came from someone close. That's where this story turns tragic. Dominique Butterbarner, the getaway driver, flipped. He took a plea deal and testified in court, laying it all out. He admitted to driving the stolen Nissan Altima as Ksoo and his cousin, Leroy Whitaker, plotted the ambush on Charles McCormack. But what truly sends chills down your spine is what Barner revealed next.
Was there a plan at that point in time for what was going to happen next?
Yes, sir.
And what was that plan?
Well, they were going to ambush him as soon as he got in the vehicle.
Alright. So, ambush who?
Charles McCormick.
And when you say ambush, what does that mean?
Like, well, we call it run down.
What does run down mean?
It's ambush.
Barner's testimony painted a chilling picture. He described how they sat for hours outside McCormack's apartment, watching, waiting, and then followed him to a shopping plaza. That's where Ksoo jumped out of the car, rifle in hand, and chased McCormack down. When asked what happened next, Barner didn't flinch. Chased him, killed him, he said. But as damning as that was, it wasn't the final blow. The moment that truly shattered the courtroom, likely Ksoo's world, came from someone he never expected, his own father. Abdul Robinson Sr., known on the streets as Blue, took the witness stand on July 28, 2025, and what he said next stunned everyone. When prosecutors played dashcam footage of the murder and asked him to identify the shooter, Abdul Sr. broke down. He hesitated, got emotional, then dropped a bombshell that echoed in dead silence. "My son," he said. "What's your son's name?" the attorney asked a king. The courtroom held its breath. A father had just named his own child as a killer. But it gets even more good. Abdul Sr. had taken a plea deal, his potential 60-year sentence reduced to just 20 in exchange for his cooperation. He was charged as an accessory after the fact, accused of helping the shooters escape and burn their clothes. When asked why he was testifying against his son, Abdul Sr. crumbled. "I'm a diabetic. I have high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, and my kidneys are failing." He spoke of his younger kids, an 8-year-old daughter, who begged him to come to a daddy-daughter dance, to 6-year-old sons who wanted him at their football games. He was facing the impossible, choosing between his older sons and the little ones who still had a future. "This is the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life," he admitted. The defense didn't hold back. They pressed him, asking if testifying against his sons was worse than killing them. In a 2023 deposition, when asked if his words might cost his boys life sentences and whether that was worse than death, Abdul Sr. quietly answered, "Yeah." The streets erupted. Rapper Boosie Bada spoke out on Vlad TV, calling the betrayal heartbreaking and reminding people of the old street code, loyalty above everything. Social media exploded with debate. Was this justice or betrayal? But Abdul Sr. wasn't done. He also testified against his other son, Abdul Robinson Jr., in related cases. This wasn't just a plea deal, which the dismantling of a family in real time. And while Ksoo's world crumbled in court, things inside the jail weren't any better. That viral footage making the rounds. It's just the surface of what Ksoo was allegedly enduring behind bars. Let's talk about it. Because while Ksoo was fighting for his life in a courtroom, he was also apparently fighting to survive in jail. His incarceration has been marked by violence, isolation, and what his legal team calls abuse. Ksoo's been locked up since September 2020, and from the very start, it's been brutal. October 5, 2021 surveillance footage inside Duval County Jail shows a corrections officer entering Ksoo's cell around 7:45 p.m., handcuffing him, and then, in a shocking moment, lifting him up and slamming him to the concrete floor, like something out of the WWE. Ksoo was cuffed, completely restrained, and yet was still body slammed. Officers later claimed Ksoo had threatened them and was preparing to spit, justifying the takedown as self-defense. But his family tells a darker story. They say the officer taunted him, mocked his dead sister, saying things like, "Your sister is dead," and threatened to rearrange his face. Ksoo suffered a broken wrist from that encounter. But here's where things get really disturbing. Just 15 minutes later, around 8 p.m. that same night, Ksoo's sister Karina Robinson was shot in the face by a bail bondsman at the Avenues Mall in Jacksonville. The bondsman claimed he was trying to apprehend her over outstanding warrants, but the timing was eerie. The same day Ksoo was allegedly taunted about his sister by officers, she gets shot. Her injuries were horrific. Her jaw was partially blown off, and she required a tracheostomy to breathe. The family believes this wasn't coincidence, they think it was coordinated. Authorities ruled the shooting had nothing to do with the police, but Ksoo's family never bought that explanation. The sheriff's office investigated the jail incident and concluded that the officer used reasonable force, but lawyer, Christopher Dust, called it excessive. Complaints were filed through Ksoo's grandmother, but nothing changed. Fast forward to December 2024. More posts began circulating online, quoting Ksoo saying, "The police done beat me again. While in handcuffs they trying to kill my spirit. While there's no official footage or report from that alleged beating, it hinted at ongoing physical and psychological abuse. Early 2025, during pretrial hearings, Dust claimed Ksoo was suffering severe mental distress from being held in isolation on the jail's 6th floor disciplinary and psych unit. He reportedly wasn't eating, sleeping, or able to effectively speak with his legal team. Imagine that. You're trying to fight for your life in court. Your father just testified against you. And on top of it all, you're allegedly being broken down mentally before your trial even starts.
Person that was captured on the video recording shooting Charles McCormick.
My son,
What's your son's name?
Hakeem.
After multiple complaints, Ksoo was eventually moved back to general population in January 2025, but the damage was already done. And remember, all this is unfolding while Jacksonville's gang war is still boiling over. The ATK versus KTA feud has been one of the most violent conflicts the city's ever seen. When Foolio was killed in Tampa in June 2024, Sheriff TK Waters had to issue public warnings about retaliation. 5 suspects were arrested in connection with Foolio's murder, but the streets didn't calm down. And in the middle of this chaos, Ksoo wasn't just another inmate, he was a symbol. He was seen as a key figure in the war, and correctional officers knew it. Some of them, it seems, decided to take matters into their own hands. But perhaps the most tragic part of all this is that while Ksoo was allegedly being abused, betrayed, and broken in jail, the very crew he rode for was turning against him. Even young Yeen Ace, who reportedly spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Ksoo's legal defense, admitted on a July 25, 2025 Instagram livestream that he was going broke trying to save him. It was a raw moment, Tace venting about loyalty, sacrifice, and watching everything around him fall apart. But loyalty only runs so deep when everyone's staring down the barrel of a life sentence. Dominique Barner had already flipped. He took the plea, laid it all out in court. From the stolen car to the ambush plan, to the moment Ksoo jumped out with the rifle. But the most damning part, Barner's recount of what happened after the shots were fired. Did Hakeem take anything with him? The prosecutor asked. Yes, sir. What was that? Murder weapon. Simple, direct, devastating. Then came more questions about who took what, who left what behind, and it became clear Barner was building the full picture. While Ksoo sat in jail, allegedly being brutalized, the people he once trusted were tearing down his defense brick by brick. His cousin, Leroy Whitaker, was also charged and facing life, and like Barner, he was out to save himself. But nothing, not the testimony, not the surveillance, could prepare anyone for what Abdul Robinson Sr. would do when he took that witness stand. He didn't just name his son as the shooter, he confessed to helping cover up the crime. Calmly, he told the court he took their bloody clothes, drove behind a Burger King, and set them on fire. His own son's future literally burned in his hands. For Ksoo, the psychological toll had to be unbearable. Already battered from alleged abuse, he now had to watch the man who raised him label him a killer. Abdul Sr. called it the hardest decision of his life, but explained his failing health and desire to be there for his young children drove him to cooperate. The defense fired back, calling Barner and Abdul Sr. unreliable. Both had motives. Both had deals. But the prosecution had more than their words. Surveillance footage, cell phone records, fingerprints, and, crucially, Ksoo's own digital fingerprints, his social media posts. They showed jurors his Instagram pic of McCormack with the caption, "Bye bye bye," as if taunting the dead. They quoted lyrics from Youngin Ace's Ksoo Homicide, where Ace rapped, "Ksoo, go kill him." And the debate began: when does art stop being art and start being evidence? Because when you post about murder victims with captions like that, it's no longer just music. Hits a mindset, one that helped prosecutors secure a conviction. On July 31, 2025, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Ksoo guilty of first-degree murder. His cousin, Leroy Whitaker, was also convicted. Both now face life without parole, but even with the verdict in, the story wasn't done. New footage began circulating, footage showing a man seemingly broken by the system, betrayed by his family, and allegedly brutalized in custody. And that's where we get into the final part of this tragic saga: what's been happening to Ksoo since that guilty verdict. This viral footage is more than just content, it's a mirror reflecting the real cost of violence, cycles of revenge, and a system that too often makes things worse. The footage shows a man only 26 years old deteriorating under the weight of incarceration, trauma, and abandonment. A man whose own father helped put him behind bars. And yet Ksoo's legal journey isn't over. He still faces another trial for the 2019 murder of Adrian Baby Gaynor Jr. Foolio's little brother. That conviction could add even more years to his already crushing sentence. Foolio himself, before he was murdered in Tampa in June 2024, warned about the danger of internet bragging and glorifying death. "It don't make no sense," he said in an interview. "Murder don't expire. You can get arrested 40 years later." And he was right. Ksoo's own posts, songs, and captions were used against him in court. What once earned him street cred became the very rope that prosecutors used to hang him legally. But zoom out, this isn't just Ksoo's story. It's the story of a city caught in an endless loop of violence. Since 2017, the ATK vs KTA feud has claimed over a dozen lives and counting. Even with Foolio dead and Ksoo locked up, the bloodshed hasn't stopped. In January 2025, 7-year-old Brianne Allen was gunned down in crossfire tied to this war. A child. That's what this beef has led to. And it all plays out online, Instagram, in diss tracks, in comment sections. Instead of being stopped, the violence gets amplified. The tragedy of Willie Addison's murder in 2019 should have been a wake-up call. Instead, it pulled Ksoo and his family deeper into the fire. Abdul Sr. described how it changed his son's how. Abdul Jr. suffered mental instability after being shot in the head. How Ksoo's anger seemed to harden. That's what trauma does. And in environments where healing is replaced with retaliation, trauma mutates into violence. Instead of therapy, kids get guns. Instead of support, they get songs about sliding for dead homies. Abdul Sr. knew the cost. During testimony, he cried about missing his daughter's daddy-daughter dance. About his 6-year-old sons begging him to come to football games, or teach them how to play video games. "Please come see me, Daddy," one of them said. But he was locked up for helping his older sons try to get away with murder? This wasn't just about snitching, it was about trying to stop the bleeding. And yet, the backlash was swift. The streets called it betrayal. Boosie Badass spoke out, defending loyalty. But here's what gets overlooked. That loyalty often protects killers and lets trauma fester. In Ksoo's case, prosecutors didn't even need Abdul Sr.'s testimony to convict, they had everything else. But hearing a father say "my son did it" hit harder than any piece of physical evidence. And it forces us to ask, what kind of society do we live in, where a father has to make that choice? A society where young black men are taught that violence is survival, that music should glorify murder, and that silence is more honorable than justice. Even Ace, who gave everything trying to support Ksoo, got caught in the web. Loyalty to a killer cost him thousands, maybe even his own freedom. At what point does loyalty stop being noble and start being destructive? That viral footage of Ksoo, now it's not just about a man in chains. It's about everything that got him there. A boy who lost his brother and picked up a gun. A rapper who mistook clout for security. A father who chose his younger children over his older ones. A system that isolates instead of rehabilitates. A city caught in a storm of its own making. And a culture that profits off the pain. Ksoo's story is filled with villains, but it's also filled with victims. Foolio McCormack, Brianne Allen, Willie Addison, even Ksoo himself. And if we don't start addressing the root causes, trauma, poverty, broken systems, this cycle won't end. It'll just move to the next neighborhood, the next family, the next child with a gun and something to prove. That's the real tragedy. And it's one we all need to reckon with.